Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Laurel Park. It's Commonwealth Day on this Sunday afternoon. I am Acacia Courtney, joined by track announcer Dave Rodman. Now, we are off the turf today, as you might have expected with some of that rain, but hey, Dave, we still have some nice Virginia bred races to get through, stakes races later on today, and just looking back even yesterday, it's been a great weekend all along.
Well, first of all, congratulations to King Leatherberry.
Yes.
Wins 6,500, the first race of the day, up by a whisker. In Ben's Cat style. You know, that's the way Ben's Cat used to run. Here he comes, and just in the last jump of the second wire, getting a happy lantern home was Rosario Montanez for career win 6,500 for the Hall of Famer, plus all of the stakes action yesterday, the Switzerland and the DeFrancis Dash, and others we'll mention in a moment.
Absolutely. It was a great day. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for playing along with the races here at Laurel Park. As I said, off the turf today, but we do have 12 races to bring you. We'll do the best we can to keep you updated with scratches as we go along, and of course Dave, after today at the races, will give you a whole rundown of all of the scratches and changes. But hey, as we always say, no wet track blues here at Laurel Park. Still lots of good stuff, and as Dave mentioned, we kicked off with a bang yesterday with King Leatherberry's 6,500 victories, but of course the marquee race of the day was the Grade 3 DeFrancis Dash, won by Switzerland for trainer Steve Asmussen. Let's take a look back at that.
Into the stretch now, and it's Switzerland and Fergal Lynch driving, opening up 5 lengths. It's wide open for second, the man on the outside, and Lakai down to the inside. Lakai's running a big one, trying to chase Switzerland down, but Switzerland much too much for them in the Frank J. DeFrancis Memorial Dash. Switzerland to win by 3. Lakai was second, and then it was Sweet on the Ladies from far back, and then Colonel Sharp.
Switzerland, he won the Maryland Sprint on the Preakness undercard, multiple graded stakes winner now for Steve Asmussen, much the best, but hats off to Lakai, a big second for our local horse there too.
Right, trainer Damon Deladevico and Lakai, a participant in the match series racing, and trainer Damon Deladevico and the owners of Lakai picking up a bonus there with that second place finish. The match series has been great. We had several match races yesterday with the money being dispersed and some of the titles, finalized in those races, but Switzerland wins by 2 3/4 the official margin as the favorite there. I tell you, I thought maybe that the man, or perhaps even Always Sunshine, would give Switzerland a run for the money at some point. There was no doubt about it. Went 45.72 for the half mile, broke sharp into Fergal Lynch with a banner day for Fergal Lynch as well.
Big day for Fergal Lynch. 3 stakes wins, and 2 of those on the turf, and there were some questions throughout the day how the turf was playing. Do you want to be a little bit more forwardly placed? It seemed like if you're Fergal Lynch, it doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah.
He came up through the rail, came on the outside, and then capped it off with the DeFrancis.
Order and law to the far outside rail. I forgot to ask track photographer Jimmy McHugh and Steve, cameraman, whether they were inside or outside of that rail, because order and law came like a flash on the outside. If you saw the replay there, way on the outside. But coming up the rail later with Class and Cash in the Laurel Dash on the grass, and that was a different style for Class and Cash. Usually kind of a front runner, was well back in the early going, and it didn't matter. Very nice performance there. So Fergal on the inside and outside.
Absolutely. A big day indeed for Fergal Lynch. We'll see what he has in store for us today. And as we mentioned, it is Commonwealth Day. Let's take a look at what we have to bring you today. 4 stakes on tap, again, off the turf, but we do still have some really nice horses that will be running this afternoon. So special early post with this 12-race card, 12:30 p.m., so don't be late on that. As we said, we do have, as we check in on our some of our carryovers that we have to bring you today, we have a nice little carryover in the Rainbow Six, which comes up a little bit later on in race number 7, 3,400 plus. Little carryover in the Super High 5 as well. That's any race with 7 or more betting interest, so keep an eye out for that throughout the afternoon. Is some rain. It's a little bit cooler today as we check in with our weather. Maybe with some of the heat and humidity that we've had, this cooler weather will be a little bit welcome for fans today, but again, some rain. You can see the main track is sloppy and the turf will be off again. First post 12:30 p.m. So that's all the stuff that we have to deal with business-wise. Let's dive right into this card, Dave, and see what we can bring everybody some winners today on this Sunday afternoon. The first race does start originally scheduled on the turf, 5.5 furlongs. It will be off the turf. It's an $8,000 claiming event. This does also start our early pick 5. Remember, the early pick 5, industry low, 12% takeout. It's a mandatory payout. The late pick 5 is where you can find that carryover. Keep an eye out for that super high 5 as well. Again, we start with a little bit of a carryover with that as well. So few scratches here in the opener, but we do have a couple of main track only in. How did you see this opener, Dave?
Well, I thought the race was wide open on the turf, and now that it's off the turf on the dirt, probably the most troubling race for handicapping all day long. Went to number 3, Jose Seaview with the 11 in here. Padilla, a horse you might be familiar with from down in South Florida. King's House, who's got them big early zip on the rail, and on the outside, Jiff Quick, the old 10-year-old, maybe a little bit lower now that the race is off the turf and onto the main track odds-wise. I just went to Jose Seaview first off the claim. Kieran McGill, always an angle. There's some speed in here. Looks like a turf horse, but his Dam Sterling Bridge was a 4-time winner on the off track, and he's hit the board a couple of times on the wet going. So I'm looking for an off-the-pace trip here with Trevor McCarthy. Not too far off of it, I think. First time on the claim for Kieran McGee.
A good angle there. Not a horse that I use, but we certainly bring up some really good points, and you can even see with our picks on the bottom of the screen a little bit all over the place. And maybe the common theme is Padilla, and this was a horse that I have to admit, looking at him at first, I knew he was going to be a short price. I tried to pick against him on the turf, even though he is a horse that I really do respect. He's just been running against tougher. So off the layoff, off the claim, that drop was a little bit of a concern for me. However, I do think that he has the back class to go, and he's just such a game horse. I've seen him run quite a few times, and now with Bruno Tesori, he's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, Gulfstream beat a horse, a Starship Wildcat, who's 12 for 48 lifetime on the grass. I know this is on the dirt, but just to give you an example, the kind of talent that he's run against, claim for 16, off a while, in 48, but they keep him in because of his wet track record, perhaps.
Absolutely. He does have a pretty good record. He's hit the board in one of 3 starts on the wet track, and he has had 2 wins on the dirt. So we'll see how he transfers that form, but definitely a wide open race here in the opener as we flip the page, going to race number 2. Now, this is one of the few races today that was not affected by any scratches, in fact. So we do have a nice field of 6 in here for this allowance starter optional claiming 6 furlongs on the main track. And this is where we start that early pick 4. I took a stab at the sequence, so we'll show you my ticket in here. And starting off, we have a field of 6. I used 4 of them. So maybe you just want to press the all button, or maybe if you have a little bit of a stronger feel in here. I thought it was actually a competitive race. There's a bit of speed in here as well in the opener. So using some coverage, I'm going with 2 horses. The outside 2 in race number 3, the 10, I Wish I Was Special, who I really do like for Jose Corrales. Second time on the dirt, now dropping down in class. Also using the 11 Brazen Dancer. And then my single is going to come in race number 4 in the Oakley. That's off the turf. Altamura showed last time out off the turf that doesn't matter what surface she's running on. She's turned into a really nice filly for Wayne Catalano. I do think, again, there's going to be a couple other strong horses running in there. I just really think that she looks to be the best. So trying to find some coverage elsewhere, I will just single her. In race number 5, that wraps up our sequence. I'm going to use the 1, Victory Rally, the 3, Another Broad, and the number 6, Ghouls Night Out, who I really do like stretching out and potentially showing some speed today. So that's how I see the sequence. $12 ticket. We'll see how we do in some of these off-the-turf races. But as I said, does start with a race originally scheduled for the dirt.
I like your ticket. It's reasonable. It's cheap enough. I like your single, and I like the fact that you're spreading here in the second race because the horses you have on the ticket are the same horses I'd picked 1, 2, 3, 4 in here, maybe in a different order. You went 5, 1, 2, 3. I went 5, 3, 1, 2. Will there be enough speed for Cerulean Springs to rally in here? I think so. Tambora's got some zip. Vineyard down to the inside is no option but to go in sharp form, hoping for that late rally for Cerulean Springs. We'll see how that track is playing. It's a little tough to tell, but you know this horse is giving his best every time. He's come up short a couple of times, just by a nose last time out on the slop at this almost same distance at 5.5. Gets a little farther to go today. Cerulean Springs going to be off the pace type.
How do you find when the track does get wet here at Laurel? Do you find that it's harder to make up ground?
Not necessarily. I mean, I kind of tend to shy away from horses maybe who have that rail draw that may have speed to the outside.
Sure.
So it's tough to tell. Some days it is, some days it isn't. I think it's pretty fair, pretty honest. But I try to avoid horses maybe like a Vineyard on that rail who might get a little stiff competition on the pace from the likes of Tambora. That's why I picked against Vineyard today.
Fair enough. Could be a little bit of a pace duel down on the inside with those two, and then you have the 3 Campari coming off of a layoff but running against some strong competition before that break. So we'll see what we get.
That would have been my top pick had I had a
Right.
recent race, but coming off time away for the Sun Henny Hughes here in Katie Boss. He was running against Young American when he was in good form.
Right.
Horses running later today in Big City Blues.
It definitely has some races on the go back and some strong wet track races as well. So about 6 months for Campari. So we'll see how he comes back to the track in a pretty tricky race number 2 as far as the pace scenario is concerned. But good points by Dave. Keep an eye out as to how that track is playing if you're playing those multi-race wagers, especially the pick 6 later on. As we move on to race number 3, 5.5 furlongs scheduled for the turf, of course, to be run on the main track. It's a $16,000 maiden claiming event for 3-year-olds and upward. And we, again, are a little bit all over the place. Coming in off the main track, the number 4, Ghostly Affair.
Well, he claimed for 10, time away since February. They don't really give up. They put him at a little bit higher level, entered for the main track only. They got their wish. He's a McLean's music. I love those horses sprinting. I know the number's a little light perhaps February at Laurel, but this is kind of a bit of a sneaky confidence raise, I think, for Ghostly Affair. That was the reason I put him on top. Could have easily gone with your top pick. I wish I was special.
I took, I guess it was a little bit of the easy way out here with I Wish I Was Special, but came into the barn of Jose Corrales 2 starts back, tried the turf. That was actually an okay race on the turf, a pretty solid third. Switched back to the main track. I guess they got some confidence with that horse and stepped him all the way up to special weight at Timonium, going 6.5 furlongs. So dropping back into a level where I think he belongs. He's run well at comparable levels across the country at Golden Gate, and that race at Timonium actually did turn out to be a key race, won by Vineyard, who we saw earlier. So maybe that's a little bit of a play. See how Vineyard runs in the race prior when you look at I Wish I Was Special.
Well, you got to excuse the race. That was a kind of different territory for him on the bull ring there. His first time on the dirt on the slop today. That was a key race, a quick race as well, won by Vineyard. You've got to give him another chance in here. But, you know, I just thought maybe he was 25 to 1 going to get any play in that race, you know?
Yeah. That is actually amazing that he was that big of a price. Bit of a tough meet so far for Jose Corrales as well, been a little bit cool on the board. So we'll see what we get from him on the drop. I was intrigued also by the 11 Brazen Dancer, who actually had a good race at Delaware. It was not a wet track, but it was a race taken off of the turf. I think he has some solid dirt form and a little bit of tactical speed that maybe could come into play at a
I
price.
think the tactical speed's going to be his main game here today, especially with this race coming off the grass. And rely on this horse to be within a couple lengths of any speed in the race, and if they want to go, they can try to go.
All right, well, we'll see how that pace does play out in race number 3 as we turn over to the 4th race. It's our first stake of the day. This is the Oakley, originally scheduled for 5.5 on the turf to be run on the main track. 4 fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward. And I think the race goes through the number 1, Altamura, and we'll backtrack to her last race on August 4th. She, of course, ran against a couple of others in this field. This is the Virginia-bred races in here, and I thought, as the number 1 again that day, she showed she can win from the rail. She's dueling with Uphill Battle, the number 5 that day, who was actually 3-2 on that afternoon. Came to the attack at the quarter pole. What the beep is the 6 on the outside.
Well, I mean, it looked like she was going to get beat maybe by Uphill Battle, but after Altamura turned away, it was an uphill battle for her, but a good race from What the Beep on the outside. I really love the fact that this filly had the dig, the heart, to stay on a race taken off the turf. She was a private purchase sale after the John Stevens barn and the win in the Tyson Gilpin and breaking the maiden, going to new owners, and paid immediate dividends in the Camptown. Now, again, this is scratch 3, 5, and 7 in here. Speaking of speed and the rail we talked about earlier, I think she's got enough speed maybe to scoot, boot, and maybe get just off the inside and not get hung up down there on the inside. I mean, I really like that game win from her.
Fair enough, and she does have that inside post, but again, the field is a little bit more condensed with the scratches, and sometimes it's almost even a little bit worse when it is a smaller field if they get all kind of bunched up together. So we'll see how Channing Hill does handle that, but certainly she was so game last time out in fending off the attack. I too thought it was a good race from What the Beep, who's shown she can run well on both surfaces. Last time out in the Miss Disco on the dirt, not the best performance from What the Beep though.
But she ran against Majestic Reason in there. It was a rally from the Dale Capuano barn. Pretty tough customers, and she was gaining on Altamora. So I can see a reason to play her in the spot and use her in the pick for. But you singled Altamora, right?
I did. I singled her.
And I don't blame you there.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to find a place to maybe narrow down, and this just looks like the spot, I think especially coming off the turf and the fact that she showed with a race off the grass last time that she can run on both surfaces.
Channing Hill looking for a stakes double this weekend, right? Hello, Don Julio in the Laurel Turf Cup yesterday. Same kind of style. Collard kind of dug down in there, wire to wire. Love seeing a horse like that run. Hello, Don Julio with that big long neck and digging down.
He was so game, too. And it was so funny in the post-race interview with Rich Migliori, it seemed like Channing Hill was more out of breath than the horse was. He said he didn't even get tired. He just settled so perfectly there. But
yeah,
nice
I love
ride.
the fact when he came back, he didn't go right to the winner's circle. He kind of paraded in front of the crowd in the grandstand and let everybody
Soak it all in.
Look at
Soak
me.
it all in.
Look at me.
I love it.
Yeah, the horse knew he won. He's a very nice horse there.
Absolutely.
Yesterday, Hello Don Julio in the Turf Cup having the stamina. But Channing Hill, on that horse yesterday, looking for a stakes in the Oakley today. Another stakes win.
All right, we'll see if he can make it 2 stakes wins this weekend. As we flip the page onto race number 5, this is an allowance race for restricted fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward, a mile and a 16th on the main track, originally scheduled for the main track. So we actually have no scratches or changes here in race number 5, which is definitely refreshing. How did you see this race, Dave?
Well, I went to the 3, another broad. I think the light bulb went on for this filly on the sloppy track here at Laurel. Gets the same kind of conditions today with Michael Trombetta, who's got 2 in here, runs Luna Rill, runs another broad. I think he wants one of those fillies to win.
Well, absolutely.
Hopefully it's 3.
I can certainly not fault you there. Big win on the sloppy track last time. I had some interest in the 6 Schools Night Out, and I found a good stat on trainer Hammy Smith, which will show you over the past 5 years. This is sprinting, going from sprint to route on the dirt with horses that finished in the money last time out. He bets at 22% in the win average, 63% of the time in the money, and a positive ROI of 250. So I thought that this one stretching out, who has run a distance of ground before, could be forwardly placed, does have a win on a wet track, some solid races on the wet track. So I thought that this horse stretching out, finding that good spot, and found a good stat on it as well.
She ran against Renaissance Rosie sprinting last time out. We know her. She's fast. She loves to win.
Right.
14 to 22 lifetime Renaissance Rosie. So Ghouls Night Out running against some tough mares there at last start. Trombetta Barn's been kind of on a roll, though, so that's kind of went with that filly in here. Again, he's got 2, the Lunar Rill, and 3, another broad. 8 wins in the last 30 days for the Trombetta Barn, 18% and a positive ROI if you'd bet all the Trombetta horses to win. Did a little rain dance, I suppose, for another broad last night. But, yeah, for sure, a Ghouls Night Out running against Renaissance Rosie. Strong stat on Hammy Smith, a user.
Yeah, definitely one to use. And then we have Victory Rally to the inside, who has a couple of wins right here at Laurel. Alex Cintron going to pick up the mount today. Has some strong races on the wet track, too.
I think lifetime record kind of says it all for this filly. 5 seconds, 12th hard. She's run some big races. Yeah, she picks up a check. Sometimes she kind of doesn't want to go buy a horse. I don't know. Maybe the key to her today is going to be the right track, the right conditions, and the right company, and the right everything for her. But, I've seen her run especially the last 2-3 times she's run here in Maryland. She just kind of doesn't switch that gear when needed.
It seems like she likes to finish second, so that's where Dave and I put her.
Right.
As we move on to
That's enough to put her in the winner's circle, right?
I think so. Maybe now we've talked her just enough that she's going to get the win today. As we move on to race number 6, this is the punchline for those Virginia breds. Once again, 5.5 furlongs on the turf to be run on the main track in here. And even though there were some scratches in this race for sure. This one, I think, probably one of the races most affected by scratches in here. I went to the outside. I'm going to take a stab with the number 11, Fly E Dubai, who won last time out at Penn. Just kind of looking through this horse's past performances, I think he's got to step up a little bit to compete with some of the other horses that are going to be in this race here today. I know he's been beaten by a couple of others, but that was on the turf. I'm wondering if the dirt is really just his preferred surface. He did win on the mud here in Laurel back in April.
Yeah, she's pretty honest type horse here. Has run against some good horses. Homespun Hero, Determined Vision, not quite getting there. Just another notch is all this horse needs. Maybe the off-track outside draw is no problem with the scratches. Not too far outside there today, but enough to stay out of any splashback for Fly E Dubai.
You went to the number 6, Divine Interventio. This was probably the horse with some of the strongest dirt form in here.
Yeah, sometimes it would need to pick a winner, a little divine intervention, right? First off, the claim for Lacey Gaudette, a strong race for the Asmussen Barn at Saratoga. Claimed out of that spot for 16. Confident step up here into Stakes Company in the punchline, perhaps claimed just for this race. It's good to see a new face in the game here in these Virginia races in the punchline, and I think the horse has enough tactical early speed to get it done today. And wet track, no wins, but a couple of seconds. New barn today, and gets Katie Davis, who's just riding in super form since comeback from injury.
Yeah, she's been riding very, very well. What do you do with a horse like the one Homespun Hero to the inside, who has certainly knocked heads with some of the other horses in these races before, been consistent, did win a stake 2 back?
Well, beat your horse Fly Dubai, beat Determined Vision in that spot. That was a race taken off the turf, moved the main track just like this one. I still don't know where that race came from. It's been a long time since drinks for Homespun Hero. If he can come back to that race, he'll be competitive.
Yeah, he certainly will be competitive. He can repeat that, but can he repeat that is the difference. So we're all over the place in the punchline, but we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll tackle that 20-cent Rainbow 6 and finish up the Virginia Bred Stakes on Commonwealth Day.
Whether you're at home or at the track, have a stake in the race when you bet with ExpressBet. Sign up for an ExpressBet online betting account and receive up to a $500 sign-up bonus.
Welcome back to Laurel Park. It is Commonwealth Day on this Sunday afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us as we come back. Acacia Courtney and Dave Rodman tackling this 12-race card, and it's time for the 20-cent Rainbow 6. We'll dive right into my ticket. Took a stab at the sequence. We do have a little bit of a carryover to start here, just over 3,400. No singles for me in today's Rainbow 6. I'm going 57.60. Hopefully you got a little bit of spending money yesterday afternoon here with those competitive turf races, going 3 deep in this first race, which is taken off of the turf. We are all off the turf here today. So again, no singles. I wanted primarily some coverage in race number 8. I thought that one very wide open today with this wet track. So there's my ticket, $57.60. It does kick off in race number 7, 5.5 on the turf to be run on the main track. It's an allowance race for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward. And I went to the outside. I just went with the speed play in the 10 Bye Bye Blues. How did you see this race, Dave?
Yeah, it could be bye-bye and gone with that kind of early foot. Last time off the turf on August 12th, race taken off the turf, used that speed to advantage for trainer Dale Capuano. I went to Tiger Eyes in here, entered 4, the main track only. Race comes off the turf and off time away from the races. Claimed and ran a couple of really bang-up races here at Laurel Acacia back in October and November. December was beaten by She Rolls, and I think something obviously happened. 1-2, showed speed, faded, and gave her time away. Whatever issue it was, perhaps is cleared up because Anthony Ferrier runs her back, protects her in this race. Not in for a claiming price. Don't drop her down. They claimed her for 20, made a little bit of money off of her, off of 4 runs. So that's the reason I went to Tiger Eyes.
So definitely like that she comes back not being in for the tag. I mean, you look back and as early as last September, she was in for 62.50. So certainly good to see that she's not in for the tag, stringing all those wins together back last fall. We'll see if she can get back to that kind of form. Just to go back to Bye Bye Blues, I did pull a replay of her last race, which was on September 3rd at Parks. I know it was on the turf, but I did think it was still worth showing because this is just kind of her running style. This was a race that also produced 2 next out winners, so I like that it was a key race, and several sent in this race. She was the number 7 that afternoon. She came on the outside with a very strong run and just kind of really pulled her jockey down to the wire. Very game, and she does have that speed.
Well, yeah, the speed is the key. I mean, you look at her turf race, 3 back at Laurel. She chased a horse named Glittering Judy. That's pretty quick. And so turf doesn't bother her. Obviously, chasing speed, moving to the dirt was no problem. A win August 12th, race off the turf to the main track. She'll be right out there with a good break from the gate. And is fresh and ready to rock with speed.
All right, that is race number 7, which again does kick off our 20-cent Rainbow Six today. Bit of a carryover there as well as we look to race 8 this afternoon. Continuing on with Allowance Company. This is 6 furlongs on the main track, always scheduled for the main track for restricted 3-year-olds and upward. And this one I thought was very wide open, and even just looking at our picks, we are all over the place here.
No, you picked Stomp Dance, eh?
I did. I did.
You weren't at Timonium when I played her that day.
Oh, I guess not.
I
guess not. Beating 3/4 of a length at
15 to 1. Yeah, at 15 to 1. Loved him that day. I got a little fear, so I'm sure he'll win today. I went to the 7 horse here, Big City Blues. Look, he ran against old 9-year-old Goldman. He's got some tactical early foot. The Lacey Gaudette barn here. Good run against Pete's Play Call. He's just so consistent. I think he's going to, with a sharp break, not more than a couple of lengths off the pace in this race. At Stomp Dance, yeah, big effort last time at 15 to 1. Not big enough for my bankroll though.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know it'd be bringing up bad memories with Stomp Dance.
Yeah.
But anyway, maybe now, now that you've jumped off, maybe today is the day for Stomp Dance, because hasn't that happened to all of us as soon as you jump off? I thought that he'd be forwardly placed. I think there's a couple of horses that have some speed in here. There was a key pace scratch of Roll Again Question. He's out of the race, but you still have the likes of Odds On. You still have Magician's Calendar, who's not slow early either, and Taco Supreme coming off a layoff might have some zip as well.
Perhaps maybe done faster than Odds On, so I'm looking for Big City Blues to maybe just sit off at the target today. You know, I've been just trying to map the race out in my mind pace-wise.
All right, we'll see if Odds On just keeps on going, and we'll see if Dave's pick can Big City Blues can pick up the pieces.
In Arrears has kind of been a tough luck horse, and the company's kept. He ran 4th behind Rockenfeller's, a sharp winner at Parks a week or 2 ago. Now he's in a little bit kinder company, and that wet track is going to help him.
Yes.
I think that's the wet track enhanced horse here too, In Arrears, with a couple of wins in 3 seconds for Narrow Leaf Farm and Brandon McFarland.
This could definitely be a horse that moves up with that wet track. Again, this race always scheduled for the main track, but now they have that sloppy surface to deal with this afternoon. We continue on with Stakes Company. This is race number 9, a mile and an eighth, originally scheduled for the turf to be run on the main track. It's the Burt Allen. This was a race that, I kept looking through. I ended up, again, trying to find a pace play. I went with the 5 River Deep.
Yeah, could have gone with him. And I said, well, maybe they're going to try to send Running in the Vale this afternoon. And and the race now that it's off the turf is a little bit murky to me. And so here's my pick 4 ticket, races 9, 10, 11, and 12. It's an $18 ticket. That's why I used 3 in this race. I went Vincent Van Gogh, River Deep, and Running in the Vale on the ticket. I respect River Deep. I think he's a little bit better turf horse, but he's won on the main track, a race taken off the grass in a shorter field, going a mile. But Running in the Vale, I mean, he's only got one way to go. That's go, send, and I think they might try to do that this afternoon. That's why I'm using them in there. Then I went 11 and 12 in the 10th race, using Over Negotiate and Saida, again, speeds perhaps to the outside there. In the 11th race, I like Arnaud Delacour. Oh, that's right. Wait, he's got 3 in here. 3, 6, and 9. So Arnaud Delacour's got 3. I use all 3 of them in that spot. And in the 12th race, going with Kierland and a possibility move up off the claim in Red Nut Cowboy we'll talk about in a minute.
All right, I like that ticket. Again, nice and affordable, $18 play. And I am in agreement with you. Arnaud Delacour looks very tough in race 11. We'll get there in a minute, but coming back here to the Burt Allen, you bring up some great points about running in the Vale. He's got to send in here, stretching out in distance. And this was a race, I mean, you're still going the mile and an eighth, so you've got to be able to sustain that speed. You need a very fit horse, especially on a wet track like this.
Yeah, that's the key here. You know, you're thinking off the turf, oh, it's going to be a one-turn mile. No, it's a mile and an eighth. So this is really distance. Perhaps is River Deep running in the Vale. Are they going to get into some kind of duel? Maybe Vincent Van Gogh can just kind of pick up the pieces. I know maybe a little light on numbers, but comes out of a fast race, a fast mile race here on the sloppy track won by Birdie's Honor, who broke slow that day and didn't matter. Impressive and got up to win by a head. You know, he's the kind of horse who can sit off of any kind of pace in this race if it's sharp and come take advantage.
I saw exactly the same thing you did. So maybe Vincent Van Gogh will pick up the pace as we land on 2 separate speed horses there in race 9. We flip the page to race 10. This one, a mile and a 16th, originally scheduled for the turf. This one will be run at the 1 mile chute. So it does change the overall pace, makeup of the race, going from 2 turns on the turf to 1 turn on the dirt. It's an allowance optional claiming for fillies and mares 3-year-olds and upward. We both land to the outside on the number 12, Saida.
Yeah, Saida over negotiate. It's a little tough to separate those two, but over negotiate's been running on the turf. Saida doesn't really matter which kind of track she gets, really sloppy track, turf. She has tactical early speed on both, and I think that's going to be the way to go. With the shorter field, I mean, Conjecture's got some early speed, perhaps going to be on the chase of them. But I went to outside, would appear to be the 2 classier horses in here, Over Negotiate and Saida. Trevor McCarthy, by the way, will ride number 12, Saida, in the 10th race.
All right, we'll see if that speed, we'll see if she can repeat the race that she did at Saratoga last time out. She hasn't run since July. She's been freshened up a bit since July 27th, that Saratoga race, but it was very impressive, and she did go off as the favorite that day under Jose Lascano. So Danny Gargan, wherever he ships, he's always dangerous when he ships in, does seem to ship with intention. As we flip on to race number 11, this is the Brookmead, a mile and an eighth on the turf to be run on the main track for fillies and mares 3-year-olds and upward. Here we go with these Virginia breds, and here we go with Arnaud Delacour.
Arnaud Delacour might have this race locked up, surrounded. And a good possibility to go and finish 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Armoire with the blinkers on today probably is staying in the race. Never been on a wet track. Certainly on the turf, may have picked her on top, but I went to the other Arnaud Delacour and here at number 6, Paulita, who's got great experience. The race taken off the turf, first time in the barn from Chad Brown's stable on August the 4th. Won a 1-turn mile race here at Laurel Park, beating Queen Caroline, one of her rivals she'll face today in Secret or Not. Then I thought a pretty good effort back on the turf at Monmouth in a race that came up in fairly quick time for that level. Was a beaten favorite that day, but the filly who I think can sit right off of it or go to the lead. I mean, she looks pretty tactical. She's come from off the pace and rallying at Monmouth before on the grass, and it looks like she can go to the front if she wants to.
I think she certainly can, and she was sold at the July Fasig-Tipton Horses of Racing age sale, and has the new owners and has done well for them so far. And she's just a little bit of a thing, but she is tactical, and having kind of that lighter frame might actually be good for her getting over this more cuppier wet ground today. And certainly, as we said, Arnaud Delacour holds a strong hand. I did pull a replay for Armoire in her last race here at Laurel. This is on August 16th, 2 starts back. I thought it was worth showing because she was so good that day. She was 7-5. There she is, the number 5. Broken Bridle was the number 4, who ended up wiring the field that day at 6-1. But I did think that Armoire was very strong. She was beaten just a neck. She's got a lot of talent. We'll see, can she flip that form? She's never been on a fast main track or a wet track. This is her first time racing on the main track. They do keep her in, and she gets the blinkers on. We'll see if that gives her just a little bit more punch at the end.
Yeah, look at that. Where is the punch? Maybe, oh, just beat for
Just
second.
a little
too.
bit more.
Looked like she was going to be second
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
So obviously maybe losing a bit of concentration. That's the reason for the equipment change of this afternoon. Arnoldilla's got well blessed in here too. Perhaps maybe kind of a rabbit type for speed, letting the other two perhaps relax a little bit off of them. He's got three very, very solid fillies in the Brookmead.
He does indeed, holding a strong hand there in the 11th as we check out our final race of the day. This is race 12, 1 mile on the main track for 3-year-olds and upward. It's a 12-5 non-winners of 3 event. This one, again, we're a little bit all over the place. Let's start with your top pick, Kierland, because the more I looked at this race, this just might be the one.
Well, Young American, if he returns to the form that he had at Laurel back in the winter, first off the claim there, you've got the right horse. But it was such a disappointment at Timonium and coming back off the layoff, and I really didn't find any excuse last time out in that 6.5 sprint behind Expedited Vision. Thought he should have been a little bit better, a little tighter. Claudio drops him down to the 12.5 level. I mean, they made a little money off him first off the claim, had a little fun with him, and now it's back to the 12.5 level. I went to Kierland in here. Horse is a little more better form in recent tries, especially that last race at Laurel behind 3-13, and the first two finishers were 9 to 3 lengths. That's 12 combined. Ahead of Kierland, almost 13 actually. And then the race before that, on the race taken off the turf, Mokeef came back to win next time out. 16 non-winners at 2. King of the Jungle came back to win not once but twice in a 7-day meet.
Not too bad.
At Timonium. So that's kind of a double key race for Kierland in there. But the Redneck Cowboy first off the claim with Vargas and Michael Moore together. That's a 16%. That's a 16% combo. They strike together. Michael Moore and George Vargas Jr. Moore claims Redneck Cowboy, trying to rejuvenate the old guy, the Jersey bred, back into top form. Young American. It could be all right, as David Bowie would say.
I like it. Well, I'll be looking forward to that call at the end of the day
You just heard it. It's not going to happen.
You just heard it. That's it. This was your one shot only to get that kind of call. We'll see what happens in the finale. Well, we made it through those 12 races again off the turf, the wet main track today. But it's Commonwealth Day. We do have 4 stakes to offer you. First post will be 12:30. Dave, lots of fun working with you today.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's fun. Let's hope we get some winners today.
I know. Let's hope so. We'll stick around. Dave will update you with all those scratches and changes. Good luck today.